Listen, it's good to get a little bit of good news sometimes. We're going to talk about some good news today. With all these anti-trans bills and laws and stuff that have been proposed, going through committee, sometimes passing, sometimes getting vetoed, sometimes having the veto overridden all across this wonderful country, especially targeting trans youth access to medical care, like trying to prevent them from even having puberty blockers, which really it probably would be better if we were to switch to calling them puberty pausers, because I think blockers is something that they're latching onto and kind of running with. And functionally, they only block puberty while you're taking the medicine. So maybe it might be better to say they pause. But anyway, the pause of puberty is supposed to give kids more time with the medical professionals to discuss whether they're actually trans. So hypothetically, it shouldn't be a big deal, but no, they're even against kids having access to that level of medical care in Republican governments mostly. And, it's fair to say that a lot of these red states are pretty gerrymandered. Like in Kansas, I bet if you were to take a popular vote, most people would say this should be a decision between families and their doctors, because that's what we all voted. Like, that's what the majority of people in Kansas voted for when it came to abortion rights. We were like, yeah, on this occasion, when we do actually have the popular vote, we're going to come out swinging in favor of women's rights, essentially. So I bet even in these places where that, you think of as super red, it might be the case that individuals still mostly agree. And this has been shown in this poll from South Carolina, actually. If you're enjoying this video, hit the like button, maybe subscribe, hit all notifications if you want. Feel free to check out the links in the description. You might find some merch you like, or you can hit up the Patreon to support the content and find free stuff. That 71% of people in this poll in South Carolina say that the government should not intervene in trans youth care. So these are registered voters. Poll conducted by Mason-Dixon Polling and Strategy amongst various registered voters in South Carolina revealed that the overwhelming majority believes the government should not intervene in the medical decision-making regarding gender-affirming care for trans youth, as long as parents are involved in those decisions, which I feel like fair enough. Like, I understand why people want parents involved at certain ages. I'll agree at certain ages. So apparently even a majority of Republicans in South Carolina oppose the government intervention in the new poll, which, it's supposed to be the party of small government. That's what they claim. So why are you trying to get involved in people's healthcare decisions? So yeah, at least in this instance, a majority of Republicans in South Carolina, amongst the people, not Republican politicians or candidates or whatever, but majority of the Republicans registered to vote in South Carolina believe that this decision should be with families. Specifically, I guess if anybody's curious, the phrasing of the question was, if parents are already involved in the decision-making process, do you believe the government should or should not intervene in LGBTQ gender-affirming healthcare decisions concerning individuals under the age of 18? And yeah, opposition to the government intervention was substantial across all political affiliations, with 67% of Republicans, 70% of independents, and 80% of Democrats opposed. Opposed to government intervention. So apparently, yeah, I guess South Carolina's government is sort of reflective of the people in this instance, because South Carolina is one of the few Republican-controlled states that has yet to pass a ban on gender-affirming care for trans youth. Apparently there's a House bill that's under construction seeking to prohibit care, and also would deny Medicaid coverage for gender-affirming procedures up to the age of 26 years old. So coming after adult trans health care. You can't even argue, if they were to say, oh, we shouldn't cover this at all on taxpayer covered whatever, because Medicaid is the taxpayer covered health insurance. It's the public option. So it's one thing, like they did in Florida, they just made it completely, oh, we don't cover it at all on Medicaid because it's not real medicine, is essentially what they said. But then here they're like up to age 26. That's so arbitrary. I feel like it has to be either or. Yeah, since when does popular agreement matter here? Truly. Some polls have been published indicating opposition to trans care for youth. Others are suggesting a lack of strong feelings on the issue, with it not really being a high priority for most people. For example, here, only 1% of respondents in a Fox News poll identified trans slash woke issues as a top policy priority. It's been pretty clear throughout the election process over the last year. It seems like, the Republican Party is trying to push anti-trans rhetoric, but I don't think most Republican voters are buying it, because the candidates who are focusing on that in their platforms are, by and large, not winning their elections. So it's like they're trying to create this social wedge issue, but it's only working with like a pretty small minority of the Republican Party, it seems. They're just a very loud minority. Trans/woke, new pronouns just dropped. I'm still confused about which issues are woke issues when they talk. Well, it's whatever is convenient. That's why it doesn't mean anything specific. It means anything they don't like. Like they probably would say, oh, universal basic income. That's so woke. Racial awareness, awareness of racism. That's so woke. They're just going to keep finding, just going to keep putting new things under that umbrella and then using that as a means to dismiss all those issues. Climate change, woke, even though climate change and discussions about it have been happening for 20 years? When did Inconvenient Truth come out? The Inconvenient Truth documentary with Al Gore came out in 2006. That was 18 years ago. And Inconvenient Truth is going to be old enough to do this year. I'd say woke has replaced communist. True, that's fair enough. So there's a couple of other polls that Aaron includes in this article. So there was a recent Data for Progress poll in which 76% of participants said that trans care for youth should be made, those decisions should be made by parents and doctors. In Kentucky, 71% opposed a law that would permit the state to override parents' decisions regarding gender-affirming care. And a Grinnell College poll also revealed recently that a significant majority oppose bans on trans care as long as they have parental consent. Additionally, a Pathfinder poll last month found that a majority of voters would be motivated to oppose political candidates who frequently discuss restricting access to healthcare and sports for trans youth. So we're seeing kind of a general trend all over the place in the polls showing the results of the elections. Going anti-trans is not a winning strategy, by and large. Maybe in the most extreme of rural areas, but even amongst conservatives, they're just when people are struggling to put food on the table, they're going to get really, really tired of hearing about the transgenders again, especially if they're also seeing news of ooh, here's another priest who was found harming kids, or here's another, was it Sean Combs just got a major raid on his house and there's pedophilia allegations. How many times do you have to see, oh, here's a bunch of other not trans people who are actually harming kids, and we hear all this BS about trans people doing stuff, but what are they actually doing, and why does it matter? Shellbell says that this super aggressive push against trans rights might very well end up solidifying trans rights 1,000 times more than it was before they started pretending to care. I mean, there's probably places where there are laws passing that specifically protect trans people's right to use public bathrooms, right? But that wouldn't have happened if there weren't places passing laws against it, because for years, trans people have just been using whichever bathroom we feel comfortable and safe in, or whichever one we prefer, and not causing an issue or harming anybody. So it makes sense that since most people either don't know a trans person, or they do know a trans person and they know that trans people are just normal people, you're not going to be able to drum up a lot of negativity against us, because there are bigger problems at the moment. People are sick all the time and they don't know why, and they're having a hard time making ends meet, and food is twice as expensive as it was 3 years ago. But it's good to see, even in Republican states, even amongst Republican voters, more and more people are saying, even trans youth deserve to have their doctors and parents making these decisions on their behalf, and hopefully, in cooperation with them. It's almost like trans people are just like cis people, and when they go to a public bathroom, they're there to use it and get out as quickly as possible. Truly, me being trans is probably one of the most normal things about me, TBH. Right. It's amazing how little it actually comes up in my life outside of talking about it on the internet. Like, I talk about being trans online because it's like the thing that I'm an expert at, basically. But I'm off stream. I am like, I'm a teacher and a homemaker and like I'm an editor and like a multimedia manager, producer person, um, with like a range of hobbies and things that I enjoy doing. And like, my life is not about being trans. It is a fundamental fact, but everything just moves from there. Other good news, Washington State just became the 7th state to require LGBTQ curricula in schools. That's awesome. I love to hear that because it is, speaking of being a teacher, it's like, there is no formal, cohesive thing about like queer history. I'm going to have to go find scattered information or like stuff done by like independent historians, pretty much. Most teachers are very progressive. Yeah, for sure. Most teachers, I would say, in places, unless you're in Florida, where they did enact a policy like a few years ago where they encourage veterans to become teachers. Stuff that sticks out to you so much when you go back and watch Starship Troopers. Like, oh, wow, all the teachers are veterans. Wow. Much love to my patrons, especially Tiago Nascimento, Mersh Rolvog, Michelle Frateroli, Amanda B., Wellington Marcus, Michelle Winter, Danielle McDonald, DZXN, Suzanne Maynard, Spooky Heather Sylvia, Jamie Jam, Pasnell Infinity, Nova, Sojo, Elizabeth Bartell, Ella V. Nobody, Kevin Young, Sarah A., Athiet, Celeste, Desi Quiche, Liam Hodgson, and Mr. Atheist.